It's People's Brandon here, and this week we're going to be creating a dubstep combinator. I haven't done a synth in a while, and figured I should do one this week. So I'm going to let you listen to what it sounds like, then we're going to go into a new session and create it. That was it. Let's open up a new window. Alright, got a new window open. Head to your rack and create a combinator. Inside the combinator, we're going to create a mixer 14.2. Back down in the utilities. And even though we're only going to be using one synth inside of this combinator, I always put some type of mixer in my combinators just in case I do add on to it later. In this case, we are going to be using synth effects. That's why I have a mixer in this one. Anyways, right on top of that mixer, right click on it and create a subtractor. Right click on the subtractor and click reset device. After you reset it, it'll sound like this. That is not at all what we want. So head over to the Oscillator 1 section and change the waveform to waveform 6. And Oscillator 2, go ahead and turn it on and change the waveform to a square, which is the second one. Change the octave to 2, and then we're going to put the mix at 95. And now it's going to sound like this. It's got a little bit of a slap bass sound to it, but at the same time it sounds really synthesized. But it's not going to sound anything like that when we're done. So we have our two oscillators set up. Let's go ahead and turn on our LFO, which is the low frequency oscillator. We're going to turn on the sync. Just to listen to it, I like to put it on 3/16 for the rate. So let's go ahead and bump that up to 3/16. Oh, there we go. And we're going to turn the amount all the way up. And the destination, let's change that to filter frequency rather than the oscillator. Let's go ahead and listen to what that sounds like. So it's got a nice pulse going on so far. Just wait until we add the effects. So since we just set up the LFO to adjust the filter, let's go ahead and go up to filter 1 and set the frequency to 80. And now let's head down to the amp envelope and put the sustain all the way up to 127. So if you can hear it, has a little bit more of a crunch to it. I'll go back over to the filter 1 and adjust it so you can hear that. This is what it was before. That's where it's at now. And now let's go over here where our bend and mod wheel is. What we want to do is set the mod wheel so that we can turn the LFO off. So all we have to do is right here with this LFO knob, go ahead and bring it all the way to the minus side. So that means that when we have the mod wheel up, it's going to turn the LFO off. So let's listen to that. Then we can turn it back on. So it's the amount of LFO sent to the frequency. And that's all we have for our synth. The next thing we're going to do is add the effects to that. So underneath the subtractor, shift right click and create a Thor. With this Thor, we're going to reset it. So right click, reset device, and show programmer. Scroll to where we can see the whole thing. And we're going to start by taking everything out. Let's see, when I just like to turn everything off. If I can remember right, I want to say, I don't know if you know about the Reason user Heidelide, if that's how you pronounce his name. But I think a really long time ago, that's how I learned how to add audio and pass it through a Thor. So kudos to him. Let's go ahead and turn off all of this as well. So let's go ahead and add our filter. And you do this by adding it into filter 3. We're going to create a formant. Right now the drive is at 64 and I'm going to bump that down to 57. Now the gender stays the same on this, but the X and the Y will be changed. We're going to turn the X to 59. Oh, just passed it. And the Y is going to be at 77. Might have to shift to get there. It doesn't have to be exactly on, but that's all we have to do for setting up the filter. We're going to route everything later towards the end of this, but that's just setting it up. The next thing we have to do is set up the modulation bus routing system, which is this green text area at the bottom of Thor. We're going to drop the first one down, which is source, and change that to audio input 1. The amount is going to be at 100, which is click and drag up to get to that. And the destination is going to be filter 3 in. See if we can find that. Filter 3 left in. We can go down to the next line and we're going to do source amp. and put that at 100 also. And destination audio out 1. All the way at the bottom, top of the list. There we go. We have our Thor set up. Now we're going to duplicate this Thor. So right click, duplicate. Notice that when we duplicated that, it did not route anything automatically. And instead of a format inside of this, we're going to do a low pass ladder. We're going to set the drive on this one to 89. So a little bit more than our last one. And the frequency is going to be 213 hertz. And the resonance will be at 102. Now we are done with that Thor. We're going to route it later. Go ahead and click underneath there to get this red bar to come up. And go ahead and shift, right click, create Scream 4. I believe this, yes, it's creative. Scream 4 distortion. And right click on that. Reset device once again. And we're going to bump the damage control to 85. And the type will be fuzz. Now we're going to turn the cut on. And then this low, we're going to boost it up to 7. In the mid, we're going to boost to 11. And the high, we're going to boost to 31. There we go. So there we have all of our effects ready to go. So we're going to hit Tab to flip the rack around. Thor 1, we're going to route the audio input 1 to the auxiliary left 1. And the second Thor, we're going to do audio input 1. Route it to the second auxiliary. And you can take the left of the Scream. And it's going to auto route left and right into 3. Now we're going to take send out the first one. And we're going to put it to the audio output of the first Thor, the second audio output of the second Thor, or the first audio output of the second Thor, and put that into the second send out. And this last one is going to go down to the output of the Scream 4. Go ahead and flip the track around. You can see up here in the Mixer 14.2, it now shows Thor 1 copy, and Scream 1 setup. Those are our sends now. And for the very first Thor, we're going to bump this one all the way up to 127. Now I want to send these to the first channel of the Mixer 14.2, which will be these red knobs at the top. And for auxiliary 1 send, we're going to put this at 91, or roughly around that area at least. And for send 2, I'm going to put this at 123, which is pretty far up there. And for send 3, we're going to put that at 71. So let's go ahead and listen to what that sounds like now. Alright, and just for comparison, I'm going to play the synth before we added the effects, and then I'm going to play the synth after we added the effects. This is the one without the effects. And this is the one with effects. So it has a little bit more grit to it and more of a bass end to it. Also, we're going to set up a button to cut out that bass end to give a nice change to it. So to add that button, go ahead and click Show Programmer on the Combinator that we have. And go down to your Subtractor. And right here where it says button 1, we're going to change that to Oscillator 2 on off. So go down to Oscillator on off. And we're going to make this value 1 and 1. Now we're going to change this button 2 to button 1. And right here in the target, we're going to change it to Oscillator 2 octave. I'm going to change it to the minimum of 2 and the maximum of 3. So that when we press this, it'll go between 2 and 3. I called this the sub cut. So listen to it played. So that's how that works. Let's go ahead and route one of the knobs to change the LFO rate. You go to rotary 1, change it to LFO1 rate. So you can go ahead and name that LFO1 rate. So now you have it labeled, and that's all you have to it.